Giovanni on today. This is called laziness. I sent out all the book club gifts though, so hopefully y'all get y'all stuff.
All right, we live.
Hello, everybody. You have all the control. Oh, I guess I can still see the comments and the number of viewers, but you are doing this.
I need to change something? Are we good? Okay.
I realize I got AirPods on, so I can't really eat because you can hear everything I'm chewing.
All in your mouth.
People don't like that. This is not. I'm just hungry. I have not eaten all day. Okay.
I'm trying to specific code. Okay, here we go. All right. So we're talking about chapters 14.
At the
end.
We're talking about the last 3 or what? How many chapters? We're talking about the end chapter, so 14 to the end, right?
Yes. I think so.
I listened to it on the audiobook, and I think when I listen to audiobooks, I need to do a better job of like remembering what chapter is what, because then we get all these discussions. I'm always like, yeah, it was just the audio for me, so it just happened at some point in time.
Yeah, I did like half the beginning I was reading, and then the last half I was reading the audiobook because I saw some people's comments in the group. So
did you like the audiobook?
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. It wasn't, anything like spectacular. It didn't give me such a fun age vibes, but it was, it was nice.
I could totally see this as a movie. Like this would make as like a limited series, maybe.
I think that's what it's supposed to be on HBO. It's like a limited series, or it's coming into fruition. It's in some form. I don't know how though.
We really picked a great selection of books because quite a few of the books we read this year are getting turned into films.
So this one and what else? Such a Fun Age?
Such a Fun Age, heavy.
Oh.
I don't know if Queenie was optioned. And I'm almost certain it was.
Yeah, I can see that.
So yeah, let me open up my syllabus to this section so we can get into it. But I really enjoyed listening. I mean, I think Such a Fun Age as an audiobook was like just stellar. The narrator really killed that. But this was like, very grown. Like I felt very like rich auntie listening, watching my soap operas. But I felt very like I really enjoyed it because I really felt like, oh yeah, I'm that bitch listening to this. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing something with my life and my time. So I really enjoyed it. Hello.
Hey, who else?
The discussion. What part are we? Part 3?
5. I think it's 5.
4.
4, yeah, 4.
What part 4?
We're on the
I think
Pacific Code when Miss Kennedy's on the TV show, I believe. That's where we're gonna start.
Okay, I think we're doing the last 2 sections of the syllabus. So the stage door and then places.
Okay.
Which is what we're closing out with. All right. So, oh man, we've moved through so much of this book. So much. I don't know if you're freezing for other people. You're freezing on my end.
Yeah, let me see what it's like on my phone.
I'm sorry, I have lettuce in my teeth, y'all.
It seems to be moving kind of. It seems to be okay. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully someone comments and lets us know if I'm.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if we're clear or not, or if it's freezing, but on my end, it might just be me and not how it should be everyone else. But let's get into the part 4, the stage door. We're in 1982. This book covers a lot of history and time, which is why a limited series instead of a movie, I think would be more appropriate because I don't want to lose some of the nuance the book has. And I actually want them to expound more on like a Reese and Easy Jude, you know, like I want those characters because I feel like if they do it in a movie, it's going to be so much focus on Stella and then the white characters, and then we'll lose some of the essence of like this very complex and complicated lives of the black characters.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, the series would allow us to really explore all, like you say, all the nuance that comes throughout the book. A movie would just be rushed, and we would just be looking at the white Stella.
Yeah,
the dramatics.
Well, like, I mean, Stella and Kennedy are interesting people, but to me, I was way more interested in, you know, I just love black people. I was interested, like, in the neighbor, right? Or, the wealthy black family that came to the neighborhood and that dynamic. That interested me with Stella. But Stella was so closed off and so set on hiding herself that she wasn't that inspiring of a character to me.
No, I think Kennedy was a bit, like, Kennedy served a purpose, but she was just kind of there as well.
Kennedy was the white woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the white woman. It's like, girl.
What they wanted to be. Yeah.
This is hard. Okay, so in 88, Kennedy has taken a 3-season arc on a soap opera called Pacific Cove. 3 years prior, she was dating a black man, France, and living in New York. What did y'all think of that storyline between Kennedy and the black man? Which aligns with the time when she finds out that her mother, that is the time. Okay, because listening to all you book, the time was kind of jumping back and forth this period. So we go through the stage door is going through this period of her becoming a soap opera star, of her dating a black man, of Jude popping up in New York, them having dinner with Jude and Reese.
I think
the way
found out about her mom a little after this, but it was in this like time period. So it was kind of, I think it was leading up to that.
So is Kennedy's upbringing with her all white upper class experience and her understanding of her mother's racial identity, which at this point she had, Jude had said something back in California at the play, right? Mm-hmm. And how many years is it between the play and this period?
Oh, don't get my math is not going.
So yeah, let's not give dates too bad, but it feels like a good bit of time.
Yeah.
Do you believe those factors played a role in Kennedy deciding to date a black man?
I was very curious about her dating this black guy because, after the incident that happened when she was a child with Stella calling the little girl the black family, calling them the nigger or niggers or whatever she said, and her having that issue with the family, I was just really kind of confused about how Kennedy came into this decision because I feel like it was intentional.
I mean, it felt like a very white woman snow bunny TikTok fetish. Like, he was a thing and not a person. He was an act. Even the way she described her, like, in and out, or, the way in which she knows this relationship is not going to last forever. Mm-hmm. It does feel like, I think she used that relationship to see if she felt a connection or hoping that she'd be able to identify with the black experience. Homegirl knew he wasn't for her. I don't even, Kennedy doesn't strike me as an intelligent character. So, like, even this idea that, like, nothing about what she did struck me as if she was consciously trying to identify with blackness. She just was like, I have these privileges, I'm this person, and I don't have to think too hard about it. And I'm not going to think any harder about it.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I don't know that she really ever I don't ever get any sense of that, her actually interrogating her sense of self or her identity.
Yeah, not through that relationship, for sure. And I don't know if I would say she ever really had that moment, but the relationship was just kind of weird to me. Like a lot of those relationships tend to be. But
And I do think the parallel between Kennedy and Jude is a very striking parallel. And it reminds me of like Homegoing, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got Jessie book where we have these two half sisters and we travel their storyline and how different at the end it is for the African American lineage versus the Ghanaian lineage. And, you know, they could relate, right? Because it's a shared Black identity. But in this book, it's like, you know, Jude grew up in a weirdly light-skinned town as a dark-skinned Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And Kennedy grew up around whiteness and wealth and never had to think about anything. She got whatever she wanted. It was never challenged with it. And neither of them can really relate to the other. He also oh, go ahead, you can read it.
He also seems to only date white women. I'm not sure Kennedy knew that before dating him, but that's also her like staying close to whiteness in a different way. Yeah.
You know, I wonder, like, in my mind, Franz was like a light skin, ooh, you from somewhere, Negro. You know what I mean? You know, people like, oh, I'm dating somebody Black. I'm dating somebody outside my race. And they'd be like, you know, you Black adjacent. I'm not going to police Blackness, but you know you don't look like me or other niggas.
Yeah. Yeah. It gave me the feel of like the tall, dark Nigerian dudes I went to school with who were like really, really big, really muscular. And they only dated like the really small petite white girls. That's the vibe I got from reading.
I thought Franz was like the guy that heads up Ballman, who they did that documentary on, and he thought he was like East African or something. And he thought he was like mixed race, and he just found out he was East African.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was just Ethiopian, and he was like, "Oh, I'm just Ethiopian," and I'm like, "Wow, would you be proud of that?" He's just an interesting Black man who spoke French. It was from a foreign country, just a conversation piece. Mm-hmm. Well, Kennedy is a shallow person. Okay. What impact do we think that Jude and Kennedy's childhoods have on their adult lives? And how do these changes affect their relationships with their mothers and their understanding of home space? I do think that's an interesting construct to look at how their relationships with their mothers were different. Because both of the twins kind of held themselves, though. Like neither of the twins came into their adulthood as people that were really allowing themselves to be seen.
Yeah. I think we've kind of harped on Stella, obviously, for her like crazy decision that seems crazy to us. And but yeah, what you said, they both have some things that they are battling with.
Because even, you know, with Desiree and Easy, we still get these like very mysterious Black folk. And somebody's saying, I'm surprised Jude didn't hate Desiree. I don't know that Jude, like Desiree was still like a mother. You know, she still mothered her child. Yeah. And it wasn't Desiree who, like, I don't know that I got a good reading from this in my interpretation of the book about what Desiree's relation or how she felt about the colorism. I got the feeling that she was aware of the very like funky colorism that existed in Maynard, but did she ever take into consideration how Jude was being accepted? Or did she just say, this is all we got, this is all we're gonna have, and that's that?
I think it's definitely the latter. I think Desiree, like you said, she mothered her child. I don't think a lot of her issues were internal things that she was still kind of working through, whereas Stella had those internal issues, but it was impacting how she was mothering or was not mothering her child. Yeah. Desiree was definitely present, and I think she did. She in a way she kind of did the best she could, and Jude was very aware of her situation and the way colorism was affecting her, but it wasn't because her mother was able to tell her about it. I think just the relationship with her mother allowed her to have more awareness in regards to her situation.
Yeah, but we didn't get any passage in the book where Desiree is really addressing or acknowledging to Jude what she deals with. Mm-hmm. And I guess someone saying, I'm surprised you didn't hate Desiree because she knew about the town and chose to keep her child there. And what does it say that, like, you go back to Mallard and you don't address or acknowledge the sort of negativity that your child is going to experience as a dark-skinned Black woman, and not just a light-skinned town, but like these are people that are all like close to white, like quadroon. You know what I mean? Like everyone's trying to actively erase their Black identity from their phenotype.
Mm-hmm.
And so you bring your very Black child back to that, and there's no, we get it from the lens of Jude going through school and dealing with the classmates and the trauma of that. But, and we do get from the grandmother, right? The grandmother saying how Black the child is, and the grandmother making comments and doing things, and then her not being allowed to like go out in the sun, and then keeping her inside. Desiree definitely has some liability in the trauma that Jude and the insecurities that Jude grows up with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But she's not painted as like an absent mother. She's just doing what she know to do, and that's that. But it's so interesting that, these two twins who had so much potential because of their beauty, because of their heritage, and because of, being close to white, even though one does pass and financially comes into a wealthy lifestyle, neither of them really do well as, within their sense of self.
Oh, yeah.
There could have been, and, for the very, frustrated reactions a lot of folks had to Queenie and then to Amira in Such a Fun Age, it's interesting that we're not frustrated by the character, like a Desiree in The Vanishing Half. That there's a lot more sympathy and empathy for the choices she made in her life.
We're so hung up on Stella's decision. It seems as if they, just at first glance, they're written look like there's this binary good and evil kind of thing. Like, Desiree's the good twin who made the good decision to be Black. And then there's Stella who made the bad decision to be white despite being a Black woman. We haven't really pushed the other aspects of their mothering, just their personhood in general.
Yeah. I really appreciated that Jude and Reese at this period seemed to be so secure in their identities, even though their identities for that, especially for that time period, weren't acceptable. We can harp on and we can understand what it means to be a dark-skinned Black woman, especially in the 80s. But like, what does it mean to be a trans or non-binary man or masculine presenting person, in the 80s? And I do appreciate how Britt gets into the story of, Reese's, and how she kind of weaves out this narrative about who Reese is as a person and the way in which Reese wants to inhabit the body that they see themselves in. I thought it was pretty well done, but I'm also not a non-binary person, so I would love if anyone had any thoughts on that to chime in. Mm. That did happen early in the book. Stella couldn't connect because she felt like Kennedy belonged to someone else.
Oh, someone else said in the last live, I realized I gave Desiree 0 grace for sticking Jude in the town and just staying there. I did see her as absent in Jude's adolescence once she left for college. That was different.
I don't know. Maybe because I was listening to the audiobook and I heard it differently.
Mm-hmm.
But I always think of the context of like, what were Black women in that time supposed to do? Like, what were their options? And being a single mother in the 60s and 70s, who's going to support you other than your family?
Yeah.
Like at that point, she couldn't get, aid for dependent children, or, there wasn't really food stamps, especially not in the South. So yeah, she could have gone to New Orleans, but I think it's a lot to suggest that a woman in that time period raise a child on their own without the support of their family. There's a comment about Jude and Reese's relationship. Jude and Reese's relationship was everything to me because it touched on a lot that is still going on with the dynamic of relationships for those who are trans and LGBTQ. I felt like that was one of the most dynamic relationships in the book. And I was so worried that they were going to break up. I was so worried that they were going to break up because neither of them wanted to be seen and they both struggled with their vulnerability. But I am so happy, like the progression of that was just a beautiful love story. It was like, that was one of my favorite parts of the book. And
I think they're my favorite relationship in the whole book. It was such a nice contrast to the other BS that was going on.
And it was genuine. It wasn't like this fairy tale love story, they have.
Right.
I thought it was very realistic to the way that they dealt with their insecurities, the struggles that they faced. It wasn't like some pie in the sky and we're going to go skip off down the yellow brick road to happiness.
Yeah.
But they did, they grew together and they had very tender, loving, compassionate moments. Like when the blackout in LA happened and it was like, oh, this is so like, this is so wonderful. It felt so good. Like reading that really felt good. The way she took a job to help Reese get the surgery, and then
that did it for me.
They're in New York. That's when they run back into I'm saying all the wrong names.
Yeah.
Kennedy. I know who that white woman is.
One of them white girls. I listened to the audiobook too. I was just looking from Jude's standpoint, but because of the live stream, I do realize Desiree deserves some grace as someone who was trying to survive leaving an abusive relationship. Is there a connection between Reese and Stella? Jude and Reese were constantly.
How would there be a connection between Reese and Stella? I don't know. I think maybe there's a connection between the way that Jude partners and the way her mother partners, right? And that they both kind of end up in non-traditional relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Desiree ending up with a man who thought he could never love anyone or never thought love was worth it. And I don't know that Desiree is satisfied, though. I feel like Jude definitely gets their Jude definitely ends up in a relationship that is fulfilling, right? That is sewing into them and uplifting and reaffirming for them. I don't know that Desiree's relationship is reaffirming.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I think someone was asking, is there a connection between Reese and Stella because they were both passing? And that goes into, there's a big difference between passing your race and being non-binary or being a trans person. They're just not in the same realm. And one is living inward out and one is hiding yourself. Passing as another race, you have to erase your whole family. You have to erase your whole family because you're trying to fit into another sector, and you're not doing it because you identify as white. You're doing it because you're trying to access a privilege that you as a Black person don't have a hold to. Versus a trans person, it wasn't Reese's decision to cut off their family, right? The family was just extremely violent to them. And so for their own safety, they had to remove themselves from that connection, but they weren't trying to deny who they were. And rather they wanted to live in their truth and live outwardly. So I don't necessarily think that's a comparison that can be made between the two characters. I think if anything, Reese's journey into being comfortable in their masculinity and in their manhood I think there may be parallels between Easy and how they both have a reaction to the trauma and to not wanting to be vulnerable and end up in these relationships with women who are deeply invested in them.
Yeah, I wouldn't think to connect or try to connect Reese and Stella. I think the relationship between Reese and Jude and Stella and everyone else that she encounters, those are two. They have the different like relationship models, and a stark contrast between them helps us to really consider relationship dynamics and, like you were saying, like tenderness, care, but like on a person to person level, I don't see similarities between them or any connection.
In the syllabus, it asks, does Kennedy's acting career come to an end in the early hold a symbolic meaning in regards to her life journey thus far, the relationship she has with her mother? How did her character die on the? It was so non-consequential because I was like, okay, girl, it's just like Kennedy. She's just a white woman who like falls into things. It's like you're never quite good enough. You don't excel. You don't press. You don't push yourself forward. You get by because you don't have to pay bills. So this idea of being in New York and not being successful does not stress you out like it would stress out anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, I thought it was just symbolic in that white woman was white woman in, and that was it. You know, and she couldn't have a relationship with Stella because Stella never allowed herself to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, her character was lost at sea. I don't know. I knew it was like a really soap opera, like guiding light ending to Kennedy's character, but I didn't really take a lot of stock in it because I'm just like, this girl hapless, and she won't, you know. And she was forever referenced as that character, but she never was able to progress into another role. And I'm surprised with her dad working in the entertainment industry that someone couldn't just make a call and get her something.
I was about to say, like, I consistently got Hillary Banks feels from Kennedy, like personality-wise. Like she could just use daddy's connections to, you know, sweep things together. But she was just mediocre. Like someone in the comments said she was mediocre, and she was okay with being mediocre because she was still able to do things that just, you know, the average person, average non-white woman, man would be able to do.
So at the moving into part 4, places, and I guess we're going forward 4 years. Stella reunites with Desiree.
Mm-hmm.
What's this? And I think, you know, getting into the ending chapters is where some people got a little caught with the book. Because in our minds, with so much time and space being covered and such complicated lives happening, I think a lot of people, and I don't know if I myself was one of these people or not, but there was this expectation that there was going to be a much more dramatic reuniting of identical twins, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, that they, you know, there would be some kinetic connection in their reunion. And the reunion felt very stilted. It felt very, like at the point when Stella came back, you know, their mother was dealing with dementia.
Mm-hmm.
And she comes back and she's like, and then she leaves.
Mm-hmm. It's very incomplete, uneventful.
Everyone was saying it was all smoke. I think a lot of folks were frustrated because they wanted some, like, you know, you expect some mystical, magical moment to happen. And it was very like, I'm coming back to a place that I wanted to leave and I never wanted to be brought back to. And it was a little, I'll have to say, yeah, it was a little disappointing.
Yes, it was. We were expecting BET drama, and we didn't get it.
Girl, we was not having no Tyler Perry BET drama. We gotta clarify. Maybe a little bit of HBO drama. I was thinking, you know.
I needed some, I don't know. I think whether or not it was a positive or negative reunion, it definitely, we deserve more. We deserve more than that little conversation. But I think also
there was no emotion.
Yeah.
Like Stella comes back and it's just like, I've been uncovered. I'm acknowledging that. I'm here. And then she just kind of leaves and goes back to her life.
Yeah.
And she just seems like such a miserable person. That like you got all the money and all the privilege of whiteness and none of that it doesn't feel happy or content or fulfilling.
Like someone said, there were too many memories lost and too much time has passed between Stella and Desiree. I wanted tears. I did. I had tears, maybe a hug, depending on how it ended. Stella was given too much grace. I'm sorry, I haven't evolved that much. Yeah.
Which I wanted her to. You wanted people to fight her.
I wouldn't like to tussle. I'm not gonna lie. I'm with a kid.
Like we can throw hands. Like you just like you abandoned me.
Yeah.
Nobody held her feet to fire. Yeah, no, nobody did. And I guess that is like.
Did you all expect Desiree to be more emotional? I kind of expected Stella to do that. Yeah, I think I did. Like I would expect Stella to do that because she's the one who, you know, she left her sister. Life is catching up with her. Yeah, I don't think that Desiree would be very emotional in that moment. Or maybe I don't know.
You know, it's like, okay, like when I think of mine, like I had a brother that disappeared for years. And when they show back up in that way, like he just showed back up like nothing was wrong. And I'm like, you've been gone for 16 years. It's hard to have you can't be emotional because it's like you're the one that left. Do you not care?
Mm-hmm.
And then in that moment, it's like, well, if they don't care, you can't be the one. I don't know. For me, I didn't want to be the one that was overly emotional. And then you start questioning your own memory. Like, were we ever close?
Ooh, yeah.
Or, you know, because like, how did you just leave and then come back as if nothing was wrong?
Especially the more time that has like last in between that time.
Yeah. Was Stella really rude to Jude at that when they met at the play? We have a comment coming in from Twitter. Ooh, Periscope. I didn't know they could do this. I like these.
She said, yes, I just want to throw hands for her. So there you go. But Stella was I remember her, I think she was pretty rude to Jude. Pretty standoffish kind of, if I'm not mistaken.
And how can you have that lonely of experience? The closest experience you have in your adulthood is to another Black woman who you and your family helped kick out of town. How, understanding that sort of loneliness, how do you go home and not feel anything?
Mm-hmm. She's cold. Let's see. She went back to save her own ass, not to check in on her family. It was very selfish and a clear indication of how she really felt about her family. I don't know. I mean, yes, like I agree. I feel like something deep in Stella, probably like very deep in Stella, is like wishes that she could just be.
Could she not have been more connected to her family, more like emotional, more forgiving, more apologetic, and still hold on to the passing? And I guess maybe that is also like, in order to pass, you really do have to cut yourself off from your past or your people altogether. Like you really, I don't know in the moment, because people are asking about how she was rude to Jude. And I guess we're talking about the night of the play, right, when Jude just blurted everything out.
Yeah, I think so.
I actually thought that in that moment, Jude would have been a lot more, or Stella would have been a lot more aggressive in how she responded to Jude, because you've had this big secret uncovered in such a matter-of-fact way from someone, you know, you coming from this extra light-skinned town that you, like, I mean, I did understand some of the realm of not only am I passing as a white woman and that's being disrupted right now, but also, like, I come from a town and people do not look like you, you know? Yeah. My sister was not supposed to have a child that looked like you. And yeah, that's a lot of colorism. That is a lot of trauma. But I thought the reaction was a bit more tepid than I thought it would be because it was such an abrupt, like, disruption of her reality.
Mm-hmm. Do you think she earned the right to be standoffish to Jude? No.
Who earned the right?
Regarding Stella, I don't know how you can love and marry someone and not tell them who you are. I'm still confused about her whole dynamic with her family and in-laws.
I mean, he a white man. I don't know. You know, like, I think in the modern context, it seems crazy, like, in 2020, for someone to hide themselves because, you know, the world is a lot more accepting. And especially from those of us who don't live, like, we don't have a multi-hyphenate identity, right? So we don't have to worry about being trans or non-binary or being queer, that within our privilege, you know, as cis heteronormative people, that, you know, we don't have to think about hiding ourselves in the context of how we partner or how we create community and family in our households.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in what they met in, like, the late 50s, like early 60s, it totally makes sense to me that she would be in a relationship with someone and hide herself, you know, because literally there were no options. Like, there were no options. There wasn't some life for them to live otherwise, right? Like the you know, like, is the life that Desiree lived desirable? Is going back to Mallard desirable? And I mean, and so, you know, they were not regular Black folk, you know, and so if that was their only option, like, you know what I mean, like, Black folks are really hurt. I mean, this is still like Jim Crow era, so, like, you know, they watched their father be violently. I mean, there's no other way to describe lynching, but their father was lynched,
mm-hmm.
you know, in front of them. So, you know, Desiree and Stella both had some very deep-rooted trauma. And so I'm not surprised at the hiding, but I was surprised by the commitment to hiding, even when reuniting with her family.
I feel like Stella sacrificed enough in her past life to lean 100% into her white womanhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know that I think that, like, the trauma that she caused to Kennedy by hiding herself, you know, the way in which she prevented herself from having a relationship with her own daughter made her right. I mean, I think passing requires that you lean into it 120%. So I understood the stakes at which she did it. I just still was like, you know, like a lot of folks, I wanted more from her in particular in the ending.
Yeah.
Somebody's saying they don't think Stella loved her husband or that he loved her. I thought they had like, for all the ways that relationship could have gone, I thought it was a pretty decent relationship.
Yeah, I think
between Stella and City Bank Boy.
I don't think she loved him either. He was a part of the scheme, the plan, the passing.
Yeah, I think he took enough care of her.
Mm-hmm.
I think it felt like he was at least, I don't know if he loved her, but he definitely felt like he cared and took good care of her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is the importance of Jude and Kennedy's relationship at the culmination of the novel?
I think, you know, in a way, it leaves room for more, for, you know, for maybe another book, but within the book itself, it definitely almost serves as like hope for retribution for their mothers, who Desiree and Stella. You know,
I mean, it felt very realistic. Like these are regular folk with regular lives, and like as someone who's been putting together my family tree, right? So like my mom is from New York, and her mother's mother was in Harlem in the late 1800s, early 1900s, right? So I have a whole bunch of families from Harlem. And I've been trying to track down my great grandmother's siblings, and I've tracked them down, but I'm realizing like everybody don't want to be found. You know, you be like, oh yeah, you know, like you're my second cousin. You know what I mean? Like, hello, and they're like, people will have the initial conversation with you, but like people are living their lives, they've been living their lives for so long that they don't really have this investment in like, yeah, we blood, but like, what does that mean now?
Yeah.
And if we already have an established relationship, and these folks aren't hiding, they're not running, we just haven't, our families haven't been in contact in the past 50 years. And it's like, I'm good. I don't really have the time, space, or mindset that I want to be put together now. So I thought, you know, this, I think maybe, yeah, there was this desire to want for Jude or for Kennedy to be more invested in building, because Kennedy also is the one with the power and privilege, and you want her to pass it on to Jude. For Kennedy to have more investment in the relationship, but also it was very realistic that she didn't. You know what I mean? That it's like, okay, you know, I see you when I see you, I'll try when I try, but when I don't, you know, I'm over here being a white woman.
I could see their relationship growing, especially for another book. It may even present an opportunity for their mothers to find devotion to one another again. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think Stella and Desiree ever coming back together.
You don't think so?
Maybe. Did anyone think Kennedy was going to visit Mallard? No, because how you get there? You gotta roll it on the train. Kennedy ain't getting on no Amtrak.
Kennedy's lost her seat. She good where she is. She don't want to go.
I was hoping she would, but I'm like, you know, that's too lofty. That's too much to ask.
I need explosives. I need
you need high drama.
I do. Like, what's his name? I'm not even gonna pretend like I remember Stella's husband's name. I want
the Citibank guy.
Yeah. I need him and Mallard. I need him and Stella and Jude and Desiree. Like, I need drama. Today, people can be whomever they want to be on social media. The Vanishing Half is relatable. People hide who they are for a variety of reasons and reap some form of benefit because of it. Yeah.
Yeah, like nothing I said about the book I think it's a great book. I think it was like Britt Bennett did that. And I would, you know, we're going to try and do a campaign next month where we ask y'all to add these authors so we can get them for these author chats. Because Britt be reading my Instagram messages. She just don't be replying. And I be in the scene. And I'm like, come on, sis. We need you in the book club. But, you know, I really want to sit down and connect with these authors on their work. But Stella eventually shares her truth with Kennedy and asks that it remain their secret. Why do you think Stella still wishes to hide her past from the husband? What does she believe she can lose in California if the truth is revealed to her family and community? And at this point, aren't we in the early 90s when she finally comes clean with Kennedy?
Yeah.
And she still wants to pass.
She said,
I understand why she didn't want her husband to know, but I don't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She would. Her whole castle would come crumbling down. She was not giving it up. Yeah. That white man would have been like, you're a what? Yeah, she would have been done. But I don't know. It was very sad. You know, the thing that she doesn't want to tell her daughter is that she is half black or however much black they are. And she's like, okay, I'll tell you. I'm a Negro, but don't tell anybody, please. Okay, just keep it between us. It's like, girl, like you said, it's the early '90s. It's a bit different. You know, what's happening? Oh, and she's in California, and see.
But she, like, she lived through all these social movements. Like, she lived through the civil rights era and said, y'all niggas over there. Did we get the sense
is this not a good time for her to be like, okay, I'm a little bit black? Like, look, she seemed like.
Because it's not like you got a dark skin, black mama. Like, your whole family can pass for white.
Mm-hmm.
But then how do you tell that story, and how do you make it make sense to a white man who never had to think about his identity? I think maybe she doesn't even want to deal with the drama of having to say anything.
Yeah. Oh, it would have been.
And then, she got into like, trying to go back to school for her graduate degree and be, working at the school. She runs into the white feminist and becomes one herself. Like, she's living through like race discussions. Like, she's living through an age of heightened awareness around Black is beautiful and Black feminism and, all these social movements. And she really is just, nothing strikes her. Nothing makes her take a double back into the life she chose as a passing white woman.
Yeah, she wasn't giving up that money, that white folks' money. Mm-mm. Kennedy was confused.
When she actually knew what was up.
She passed on her trauma to Kennedy so badly. Kennedy thinks she needs to know her mama herself, her mama, with her self be known.
Oh, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
I think Stella did a lot of harm to Kennedy, and Kennedy picked up on her mom lying because she spent so much time with her mother. And I think this is a common theme, right? I've definitely met children who I've been like, I can tell that you know how to play your role. That you know that you have to perform for certain adults in your life.
Oh yeah.
But when you do that, do you ever get a chance to come to know yourself? Like, what does that mean for you in your adulthood and your sense of self? If you're constantly knowing that you have to perform for other folks. And with Kennedy, she knew she had to perform for her mother and not say too much or not ask anything. And what does it mean when you don't know your heritage? But I'm wondering, with all that like generational wealth, what's his name, Blake? Was his side of the family not filling in some of those holes? Like, where were his parents? Where were his? And don't white people with that much money, they keep in touch with their cousins?
White people with that much money keep the family tree together. They know.
Yeah. So like, how was that not filled in for Kennedy? Because it does seem she just grows up so lonely as an only child.
It's interesting since whiteness kind of depends on erasing history, and that's literally what Stella does. And then Stella taught Kennedy how to be an actress. Yeah, she still wasn't a good one. Sad times.
Rick Bennett wrote that shit out of some white women.
Right.
Because we definitely, like, we've talked so much about Kennedy, but Kennedy struck a nerve with so many people. Folks are saying his parents didn't like Stella, and maybe that's why he wasn't connected to his family. He could have still taken that little white, little blonde hair, purple eyed girl back, to Connecticut. The daughter could have gone back to Connecticut. She could have summered with the grandparents. It's like everyone has such a lonely existence.
Yeah, a lot of this, it's like the maintaining this confusion, like, relies on, like, there's like constant disconnect in order for all this to stay connected in a way. Like, everyone's so removed from each other and so lonely, and no one's really getting to know each other. No one knows their history, and this cycle just continues. Brit should just come out with the sequel so we can see what the mother-in-law does when Stella comes out as black. Stella ain't coming out as black.
All right, well, I guess we can wrap it up here if anyone has some last thoughts. we are gonna do. We did a Discord the other day for a cleaning, so we'll do one for the Vanishing Half.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people joined, but it was fun. I think we'll keep them up. Just because I know so many people have thoughts overall about the book, and with the lives we segment them.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll do a follow-up, like all around finale conversation. We can talk about all things the Vanishing Half. But we'll follow up with that after Christmas. I hope everyone has a happy holiday.
You too, girl.
I hope we get your gift box soon, but I think it's gonna take like a whole week.
Yeah, probably. I'm still waiting on Christmas gifts to get here. So,
yo, USPS is so big up. I done shipped so much stuff, and it's all just sitting in different places, and none of it got delivered.
Yeah.
But thank y'all for joining. Everyone have a good night. Thank you for reading with us.
Bye.
Wow. We'll have to do like a wrap up, like Zoom call, like next week or something.
That'd be cool.
About like just how great this year has been for the book club.
It's been really
well, holla at y'all later. Good night.